Innovation, they say, knows no bounds. Every year, World Intellectual Property Day celebrates the power of human creativity to drive progress and improve lives. This year, the World IP Day is beaming its light to celebrate the work of women, innovators, and creators. From small startups to large corporations, innovators across the globe are constantly pushing boundaries of what's possible. Women in all regions are shaping the world through their imagination, ingenuity, and hard work. At Etti and Edu, women are paving the way to solve significant challenges in assessing the knowledge, skills, resources, and support they need to thrive. And from here, in Africa's commercial capital, we celebrate the courage and achievements of trailblazing and leading women who, through determination, sheer doggedness, and tenacity, have made outstanding impacts in respective areas of their endeavors. Adasolum is the co-founder and CEO of Sabi, Africa's leading B2B tech marketplace company that is helping informal merchants and businesses in Africa reach new heights. Anu, having worked in diverse industries like manufacturing, private equity, real estate, and e-commerce, has carved a niche for herself in organizational management and transformation. As a successful entrepreneur, she has helped thousands of startups and existing businesses in their growth journey all across Africa. Dr. Dorothy Jeff-Nnamani is a leading physician in public health with expertise in developing sustainable health programs, community-oriented policies, and management protocols for efficient healthcare delivery systems. Dr. Dorothy has over 20 years' experience in managing large and complex healthcare programs and an in-depth knowledge of the Nigerian healthcare sector, which she acquired through rigorous research, programming, and her managerial expertise. Her areas of expertise include, but are not limited to, healthcare, financing, public health interventions, project management, healthcare quality, strategic leadership, health advocacy, and initiatives. Princess Etti is a UK-trained Nigerian qualified legal practitioner and the co-founder and chief operating officer at Kayoshi, a financial technology company that helps African banks provide financial services to African immigrants in developed countries. Over the years, her organization has built a reliable marketplace to connect thousands of Africans at home and abroad.
How Sabi in particular came about was during COVID. The business I was working in basically distributed energy for traders, for merchants in big markets, and those markets were shut down. And a lot of those businesses didn't have any way to reach their merchants or list products or anything. And we were trying to figure out how do we help those merchants. And so during COVID, we used the fact that we had the right to move about because we were energy providers to basically help businesses serve their customers, list their products. After COVID, that project was shut down, but that was the beginning of Sabi. And so basically we continue to build tools to help merchants solve their day-to-day business problems, and then we scaled from there.
I was a student in university about 6+ years ago, my postgraduate degree actually, and then at that time it was difficult to get money from home and not to send money back home. So at the time we were trying to get money from home, and then our parents have to go to the bank with Form A, and then the queue can be as long as 7 days. We never come until like a week or two after. And then even sending back money was actually quite hassle as well, because we had people sending back money to Nigeria, and if the cost actually 7% higher than it is to send money back to other climes in the world. So it actually cost more similar to Nigeria or SSA than other regions in the world. So it was clearly an issue that was there. It was a very broken market, and people actually would begin to flow more to the informal market, so the WhatsApp groups, the Facebook groups, the Telegram, whatever groups that existed at the time, to kind of organize sending money back from Nigeria. So we felt, okay, since we already kind of used this informal method and they seem to even scale more than the formal method that actually exists to the bank network, then why not make this method actually formal? So why not actually create a system that actually works, that isn't as informal and isn't prone to fraud and these different things? And then at that time, luckily enough, or funny enough. We had the PIT to come into law in Europe, and that open banking actually come into law. And then that actually allowed us, leverage open banking that come into the law at the time, that taking shape in the UK and America and Canada as well, part of the world as well, to allow us actually leverage that to actually create a system that would allow us to actually build a technology in line with open banking and scale across the different clients. So we actually, at that time built around open banking technology and then launched Kyoshi, or I wouldn't say launched, because I actually launched it in 2021. We actually built Kyoshi and then let it, go live in beta at that time.
So to the glory of God, Novo Health is over 10 years now. We celebrated our 10 years anniversary in 2021. And we've grown from a startup, I should say a startup of just me, because there was a time it was just me. A startup of just me to over 70 staff. And right now we're national HMO, as you know, and we have offices in the 6 geopolitical regions. So we're in Ibadan, that's the regional offices. We're in Ibadan, Abuja, Port Harcourt, Enugu, Kano, and of course Lagos, where we have a regional office and head office. It's been an interesting journey. I remembered when I wanted to start off Novo Health, which was primarily, I was primarily pushed by my passion, to see the health sector change, to see the health system, really change and be like what you have in other, in developed countries now. Yes, I know we're categorized as developing country, but you see, it's not really rocket science. All the things that happen around in health sector, knowing that it's all about life, it's about human beings. We were really nobody. Nothing can actually happen. Every other thing is in peril, is jeopardized if we don't have healthcare.
So our aim is to actually be like a marketplace that allows us, connect Africans at home and abroad, and to allow them meet their populations back home easily and seamlessly and affordably and conveniently. But our launch product is actually like a peer-to-peer digital currency swap platform that lets people swap monies in a very secure and convenient manner. So you have people that in Nigeria, for example, they want to send money from Nigeria to the diaspora, and that's actually send money from Nigeria to the UK, the US, to Canada, to Europe as well, and send money from the other countries, from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, Japan, Europe as well, down to Nigeria. So we actually are live in about 40 plus countries to send money from to Nigeria, and then from Nigeria to about 14 plus countries. And it also means that people that actually have Naira, I want to get dollars in the account, can actually exchange the Naira for dollars in the account using Kyoshi. So they're able to swap the Naira for dollars in a very convenient, hassle-free manner. So that's something we actually do to solve a Kyoshi as actually our launch product. So eventually we're going to build this marketplace that allows people, meet their needs, financial needs back home, especially things like cross-border financing, cross-border maybe mortgage, investments, and the like. So it's going to be an entire suite of products. So that actually was the inspiration for doing this.
Well, Sabi operates our clients are merchants in the informal space, which basically means their track records, their history, etc., are not completely they're not formalized. So a lot of them are cash based, or even if they are dealing with digitized payment methods, their businesses are not as easy to understand or de-risk, etc., for traditional resource providers. And so basically they're unable to access the resources they need to grow their business. That's access to credit, access to supply at certain prices or at certain quantities, access to insurance and any other services they need to grow their business. And so what we do is basically help profile and understand these businesses and then work with third parties to give them access to the things they need for their business. So this could be as simple as plugging in a supplier into our system, like a large distributor that will supply at the right prices. Or it could be profiling them using referrals and other methodologies to understand the risk around their merchants so that we can advise our credit partners on how much to provide them and so on. But the main thing is putting resources together in a way that helps this business access the things they need to grow on a day-to-day basis.
When it comes to healthcare, it becomes a sorry case. So I wanted people to have hope, to have trust in the sector, and to know that people who went to medical school, doctors who graduated, are there to take care of them. So I felt that the issues were really in building the system. We have great doctors, we have clinicians, we have pharmacists, we have people, doing all sorts of things in the health industry. But the system in which they will operate, that system that gives the direction, that gives the platform, that ensures that things are done well, efficiency, quality, all of that is not there. It's barely not there. So, and if we don't get the system right, we will just keep on, just going in circles without achieving anything. So I felt that fixing that system should be in the front burner. It should be priority. So that's the whole journey of Noble Health. And since then, that's all we've been doing, and being a HMO, we are regulated by NHIA, and the core business here is health insurance, healthcare financing, which is actually the core of that system we're talking about. Because to get the system right, you have to be able to pull funds together and pull all the risk. Without doing this, the health system will keep on suffering, because what it suffers now is that we don't have funds being pulled into the system. So we're not getting investors. We're not getting people interested. People look at healthcare as just humanitarian. There's no money there. But all of us here, we're in business. We're in business to do good. There's that. So, which is also why I must tell you, I consider myself a social entrepreneur, because it's all about this society. It's all about what happens in our system. So if we get health financing right, and with that, people can access care, with that, people can be managed, there'll be referral, there'll be follow-ups, every other thing will happen. So health financing is actually the bedrock of the system.
As beneficiaries and owners of IPs, these industry experts understand the importance of IP as it relates to their business structures, technology, and development.
I think in general, IP, is particularly important to any technology business, because literally your technology is your entire value. IP is not just the technology, right? But it's your processes, systems, the way you put everything together to provide value, and having the right protections around that, and making sure that you're able to create a moat as far as you can with IP is very important. And this extends also to your brand. So making sure, people more widely understand your brand, understand the value you bring. We pay a lot of attention to that. So basically, all you're leveraging on is your IP. It's almost everything, right? So there are other aspects to business, of course. There's the team, there's your balance sheet, there's assets, etc. But IP is one of the largest assets. And without it, especially as a technology startup, you're not really doing much, because those are the elements that create the more dynamic or like the more explosive elements of the business. If you look at what most startups do or what most businesses do, if you strip out the technology, you could still do the same thing. It's just that you can't do it at scale. So it's really the development of that IP, the standardization of that IP, and the scaling of the use of the IP, the technology that you've built, that helps you become an outsized business. If not, you're maybe like, a one-man service or something like that.
Intellectual property for somebody like me, and really, if you're somebody who is always, you're always looking at how to improve your surrounding. You don't feel like this is where we have to stay here. You're somebody who's always looking to be better. You're in a situation and you're asking questions. Why must it be this? You're should I say progressive? I don't know if that's the right word, but you're somebody who always wants things to be done and believes that things can be done better, then you cannot do without creating, ideas. That means you always come up with ideas, and then what else do you need? Those are your intellectual properties, and then you have to protect them. So intellectual property protection, if that's the question, is something I've come to appreciate, and being where healthcare is in Nigeria right now, and even with the pandemic that we just experienced, a lot of rethinking, needs to be applied. A lot of us are thinking of new ways of doing things. We're thinking of new ways of accessing health. How can we provide healthcare in those people who are in the village? How can we use technology? How can we do quality control? There's so many things in health because of the pandemic. And intellectual property plays a lot of role, because you're also thinking, if you're going into a new idea, that's also expanding, you're expanding your territory. And with all that, I told you that I like to consider myself a social entrepreneur, that you do business for good. But in all that, you can get the commercial value. You're doing that, you're expanding, you're sharing your ideas with people. But having done that, that's your work. That's something, it's not physical, but all the mental preps and rigor efforts that's gone into it. You want to be compensated for it.
In this industry, there's a lot of similarities. A lot of people are having very, very similar companies, but just maybe very, very small differences. But that the person got this idea not by themselves, right? If I had an investor one time get a deck and give it to a company that was trying to do a similar thing, that happened as well. And then their own deck had things that came from our deck. And I was like, it's happened. It's happened more often now and not. So for us, I think for us in tech, I think the value or the idea is to just build fast, ship fast, and move. That for us is a real moat, as opposed to just trying to, the IP part is a very important because it's legal, it's a strong safeguard. But for us, it's more like ship fast, move fast. Don't catch you where you are, move real quickly. So, I guess we had guys that said, we had people that came as syndicates and said, okay, if you guys have this idea already patented, we can put them in your company. So we had people that come in. So we had people that, that was very key in their, working with us as, partners or whatever it is. That was actually very key. And even if it may not have been independent for that particular relationship, but I feel like for them, it's just that I just felt, okay, this is safeguarded. It's not easy. You can't really steal this idea. So, okay, for that reason, we feel we have security in this idea or this innovation. Let's do it. Let's put in money. Let's invest. Let's partner with them. So it was very, very key for some people because it just gives them some level of comfort, in trying to partner with you. When we have people that try to invest in your company, in many of the discussion, they always ask you, or not always, many ask you, do you have this patent? Is this covered anywhere? I want to just say, yes, we actually had this, other liquidity. They're like, okay, invest in your company. So usually we have this conversation where he feels like, okay, because you have this already covered and everything somewhere, or at least you're in that process of covering it or safeguarding this whole idea and making it patented, and it's fine. We'll then invest in your company because that's there. So that's for us the instance of where not one, there's several conversations of people just saying that, okay, this is why we trust that this is safe to put our money in because there's a moat. Theoretical moat around this thing. For me, again, it's theory. Practical is like you actually push, ship, and build fast.
And in today's world of business, they believe career success varies in definition, especially as it relates to women in the corporate and business world.
I think the first thing I would say is one can grow an incredibly outsized, huge business in Nigeria alone. In terms of the size of Nigeria's economy and the potential here, it's really hard to match. But in terms of our ambitions, it's really just about markets where we're uniquely able to help merchants solve some of their problems, and that those economies are big enough to contain the kind of growth that we've seen in Nigeria, and hopefully we replicate it there. So right now we're very focused on South Africa because a lot of the merchants that are less formalized don't have access to the resources they need. So there is opportunity for us to help those businesses grow. And I think in general, any economy that we think is well matched to that aim of helping businesses grow, helping businesses access the resources they need, we'll always be interested in. But we don't just need to be in 20 countries. It's more where does the scale of the problem give us space to help these businesses move to the next level.
That's pretty much like a blind market operating by itself. So we just said, okay, you know what, it's fine. Let's create this platform to actually formalize the system as already informal. So that's about Giving Education Network, which actually leverages open banking technology, which actually went global in 2018, 18-19, the UK first, and Europe first, and actually went global around that time. That allows us to actually use data in real time to actually confirm or to actually confirm self-communication network. So basically, we pretty much built this peer-to-peer swap platform that lets people swap their currencies in a very secure and convenient and affordable manner. It actually means that if you're in Nigeria, you can actually swap your naira for dollars in the US, pounds in the UK, CAD in Canada, Europe, and vice versa as well, Euro in Europe as well. And then this means that if you're in 40 plus countries in the diaspora, including the US, UK, Canada, Australia, even Japan, you can actually exchange your foreign currency for naira in Nigeria in a very seamless, affordable, cheap. So the fees can be as low as less than $1, £1, one card, 1 year. So that's why you can do Education Network. And also, you can also, if you have, you're in Nigeria, you actually want to have naira and you want dollars in them accounts, you can actually exchange your naira for dollars in them accounts. In the very, again, you're in your house, it's mobile, it's literally convenient and it's secure. So it's able to do all these things on Education Network, and that's what we've actually been able to build for our users.
And considering the poverty in Nigeria, you have to think about ways in which the underserved population can actually be part of this, insurance we're talking about. You want them to feel that they also belong to what is happening in the society. But you're not going to ask them to pay what somebody who is working, can pay. So there's a lot. You also have to consider the informal sector. How do you pull them in? These are people who live by the day. They don't have any scheduled payment. They don't even know, they whatever they do is determined by whatever it is that they see when they go out, for their daily bread. So these are the ways in how we can think, and we just go on rethinking and recreating. And if you are appreciated for what you have done, it drives you to do more.
For generations, women have shaped our world with their ingenuity and creativity. These feats have, of course, always been accompanied by a mirage of challenges, but the can-do attitude of these women innovators is what makes the difference.
It feels like women have to almost struggle twice as hard to, be in room, actually get what they actually deserve in terms of respect, right? So sometimes you come into a room and everyone is like, and then they seem shocked that you have things in your head. You're wondering, why are you shocked about the fact that I said this? Well, why is there like a shock? Or why is there like a very obvious shock in your face about the fact that, okay, this person has said this, or the person knows this stuff, So women you feel like they have to struggle almost twice as hard to make themselves known in this space. I would say that in recent times that has changed. That is changing. There's clearly more women in the space, more women are in fintech playing in the sector as well. So that's not the case as it was a few years ago, where it felt like you had there's still a lot more men, but you had a lot more men than women in the space. But you have a lot of a great number of women that in that body in this sector are doing fantastic in the sector. But of course, there's still the challenge of what we actually face as women in the fintech space. I would say one challenge is going to be just funding, And I heard this before, and I have stopped this because it makes sense to me. People say that women always invest in their own tribe. Well, not women, sorry. People always invest in their own tribe, right? So if you have more male VCs or more males in the funding sector, you have them putting money in more men. If you have more women that are up there as well, they always say we invest in more women as well. So I would always say you always invest in your own tribe as a human being. So it's like a very natural human trait. So it's something like everybody has as a human being. So I would say the more women that we have in the top of the funding sector, the VC space, for example, the more women actually get funding in their companies. So as I'm always very keen on trying to say that more women should play in that space, play in the VC space, so that you have more women that actually get funding because they have their own, quote unquote, in that tribe, up there. So I'm sure if you have women that play in that space, they obviously push their money into more women-led companies, and vice versa as well. So I would say even last 2 years, you've had less than 2% or 2% of the world's funding just go to women. Imagine all that cake. How only 2% actually go to women, worldwide, and the US first, but then that's the general take worldwide.
I think the thing with being a woman in business is just that, there's different social norms in terms of expectations, and there are things that speak to dynamics such as networking. I think in general, I've been quite privileged, but what I would like to highlight and bring attention to is really, especially in Nigeria and the African parts of the world, how people don't take into consideration how women are socialized and how women are taught to behave and how that impacts them in the workplace. A lot of times you will find that women are expected to be more quiet, less aggressive, women are more likely to be the ones that follow the ethos of your work will speak for you and things like that. And that's kind of a problem because it's not always true. It very much depends on the environment you're in. And of course, as a business, one does their best to make sure that you're creating visibility for everyone, that you're being as fair in performance management as possible. But there is a need for businesses to focus on teaching and helping the women that work with them see the practical realities of life in the workplace and how best to conduct themselves for their own career growth and success.
I know there are lots of women. There are lots of women in the health sector. At least according to WHO, women account for 70% of the health and social sector globally. And in the Africa region, women account for 28% physicians and about 65% nurses. So this is no joke. So you see that there are actually a lot of women in healthcare. However, in nursing, we're more, and that's because of the value that women bring to the table. Healthcare needs an emotional connection. Healthcare needs creativity. It needs empathy. So these are the skills that women naturally have, and that is why and these skills are eminent in the health sector. They're very important. So that's why you have lots of women in the health sector. However, when you talk about how women move up the ladder in the health sector, then that is a different issue.
So I would say that women don't have as much support as they should. It's difficult to get. Again, if more women are in this space, we have more of a community that you're able to play in, and you have more mentorship and more, you have more information, more resources that you ordinarily would not have been able to be exposed to if you didn't have that community. So I would say, that's a challenge for us because there are not many of us up there, so it's not as easy to find a community that can actually mentor you. But I always say, the women that are out there are, mentors, that are coaches. So again, find those spaces, find those communities, and find those mentors that actually will allow you leverage on those networks and connections to actually, reach your goals. I would say, that's a challenge that we have as well. And I would say a third challenge is going to be, or I think is obviously, having to make yourself, how do I put it, invest in yourself, right? Because again, you're coming to a place where people think that already have that bias and say, okay, female, maybe not. You've been in rooms where people just think, okay, they want to see what you're kind of made of, right? So being able to just leverage all these things that are out there, resources, education, just to be able to invest in yourself, obviously be able to come out as good as you want to come out, something that I would say women should obviously engage more in, so that that becomes less of an issue for women, women founders.
There's oftentimes an assumption of what is the correct way to approach something, meaning that for women to be considered successful per se, they must follow that kind of high growth career trajectory. Number one, the first thing I point out is it's not true. I think there are many successful women who are happy with what they do, and it's not necessarily like the traditional corporate idea of a high growth career. That's not necessarily the definition for success. That's the first thing I would say. But I would say if someone is interested in this kind of path and like following that high growth business kind of success, then it's really more about being practical around the things you need to balance out. A lot of women have, not all, but a lot of women have obligations in addition to their work responsibilities that they have to design for proactively. And then the other thing is really that you need to be very conscious about how you want to conduct yourself and who you want to be. You can't say that you want to have a particular career path and not put in everything that's needed for it.
Part of the issues, two main issues, like I like to put it. I talk about inclusion and I talk about representation. So in including women, being that we are women, they're different. We just don't only go to work. We have families, we have relations, we have children, the whole works. So the health sector really needs to map out a flexible policy or plan to allow women, to operate. 70% is a huge number, but that WHO statistics is global. So if we bring it down to Nigeria, how many women in Nigeria? Versus men. People are actually living. I don't have the statistics. Data is also one of the problems we have in health. So, but if I look at my own class when I was passing through medical school and all the people that I meet in my whole medical career, I'll say that in most places, even in conferences, you have more men than women, especially for physicians. So I think WHO is actually right at about 25%, globally that you have women. So the issues still are in how do they include us? How flexible is the policies of a country like Nigeria that will ensure that women can take up healthcare as a profession.
Even in the creative art space, intellectual property plays a vital role in protecting and promoting the work of designers, artists, and creators.
In terms of IP, the one thing I would point out, and IP is related to many more technical matters in business, you need to understand the things that can blindside you. I think IP is something that a lot of people don't pay attention to, but if you don't protect, you can erode your entire business overnight. There's a lot of people or businesses that don't seem to understand that if you don't control your branding, someone else can. And it's the same thing on many other legal matters. Like, you need to understand the technical elements of business. You need to understand what consists of assets that are not obvious to you, and you need to learn how you can leverage them to create competitive advantages and so on.
Happy